Okay, so this is going to be the video where I go through my system retroactively applied to the last 4 tournaments. There's going to be a lot of information on screen, but hopefully it'll all make sense at the end and you'll see why it works, how it works. Hopefully you'll like it as much as I do. So first thing you're going to look at is right here, the major. So we've got the major results, 1 to 16 teams, the placings down here, and then the amount of points that were awarded. So right here. You'll see in total there was almost 2,000 points given away. This number, obviously because of the rounding down thing, this number will always generally be below 2,000. But that's why it's rounded down and not rounded up, so that we're not giving away more than 2,000. So for the major, Astralis were given half the prize money. They got half the points. I can show you the prize money right here. So you'll see there they got half. There was $1 million given away. Half went to Astralis, then 150,000 went to VP, so you work out 150 divided by a million, and then you times by the 2,000 to get the fact that VP were given 300 points. So on, you do this all the way down, you find out how much each team gets, and then you can rank them. They also have a box here if they attended or not. Yellow means they didn't attend, green's they attended. And here's the ranking after the major, so 1 to 16 teams, all in order. You'll see in the ranking, right here, you'll see obviously the ranking at the major is going to be identical to the ranking that this system gives, just purely because this was the first tournament we used. So there's going to be a lot of ties, so for example like 3rd and 4th, they're tied, 5th to 8th, they're all tied, so on. But this fixes the further you go on. So next up, we had DreamHack. Here's the ranking for DreamHack, 1 to 16. This is how the teams finished, how they placed. This was the prize money given away, so DreamHack gave away less than 50% to the winner, but again it was close to 50%, 888. SK finished 2nd, North Australis again tied 3rd and 4th, but now because North and Australis tied 3rd and 4th, but Australis won the last one, whereas North came, I think that's 5th to 8th they came. You'll see in the overall ranking after Vegas that Australis were generally, well, they were ahead of North because they had a better previous tournament result, which is obviously what you'd expect the ranking system to do. So these are the points given away to the 16 teams, and you'll see again it's just below 2,000, and you can see right here their ranking after DreamHack. Because there was this time new teams there, so you'll see all these teams here, this block, NIP down to Renegades. These are all teams that weren't at the major but were at DreamHack Vegas. All these teams are now ranked. So if we look at the ranking after DreamHack, we get VP first now, not Astralis. I think this was pretty fair after DreamHack, since Astralis came 3rd to 4th, whereas VP finished top 2 at the last 2 events and won one of them. I don't think there's many people would argue with this. I mean, a lot of people would say Astralis were better purely because of other results, like being previously at the major, but again, like this system only started at the major, so I think this is pretty fair. We have SK 3rd, which I don't think anyone would argue with. I'm pretty sure everyone had them ranked 3 in the world at this point. 4th we have North. Pretty sure this is fair. Again, these numbers are all very, very close to what you would expect. So 5th and 6th we actually get a tie. You'll see the further on we go, the less ties we have. So we have like 5th and 6th here. We've got 10, 11 are tied. We've got 18 to 22 are tied. We've got 13 to 17 are all tied. But the further on we go, the less ties there is. So there's the ranks there. You can see the top 10 I've wrote down here. You have after DreamHack. So after the major, here's the top 10. After DreamHack, here's the top 10. So I don't think many people would argue too much with this. Maybe they'd want to put like the odd team a little bit higher or lower, but you'll see it generally fixes itself out as we go on. So next tournament we used was IEM Katowice. Again, 2,000 points given away. This time it worked out exact. With there being 12 teams, the numbers all divided quite nicely. They also gave away points for, they gave away money for how many games you'd won. So I included that in how to break up the points. That's why some teams finished in the same position. So for example, Heroic and Immortals finished in the same position, but Immortals won an extra game, so they got a little bit more money. So Immortals got a couple more points. I thought that was pretty fair. You'll see back here is the points after IEM Katowice. So I haven't explained this yet, but the way you get your points is obviously you take your previous points, times it by 0.8 because you're losing 20%, and then you add on your new points. So Astralis, you'd take 911, you'd times by 0.8, you'd get what, roughly 750 or so, and then you add the 830, so this is their total points after the event. So obviously with Astralis winning this will be their second title in 3 events, and they also finished third to fourth at Vegas, so pretty fair that they're ranked 1 in the world. VP finished first here, they finished second previously, and then they bombed out in the groups over here, they finished 7th to 8th. So pretty fair that VP retained their third place status, I thought. Second place status, sorry. Dropped from 1 to 2 obviously from DreamHack Vegas where they were first. So I think it's pretty fair that VP dropped to second and Astralis take over rank 1 here. Especially since you could have argued Astralis for rank 1 after DreamHack. Here's the full ranking if you're interested in that. I will go over the top 10 again in a minute, but I thought this was pretty fair. You're not going to get a lot of people disagree with this too much. Obviously you see G2 here, rank 21st to 24th. This is basically incorporating one of the rules familiar where you take the each player retains like 1/5 of their points. So obviously G2 retained some of G2's points as well as some of MV's points from the major. And they then decayed through the next 2 tournaments because they didn't attend either of them. So you can see their points like went to 13, they decayed to 13, then they decayed to 10. But then they attended Starladder, so that's where they gained their next points. I think that works pretty decently. I guess we'll see long term how it works, but for now I'm not going to argue too much of that because it's not aimed at ranking the lower end teams like 21st to 24th. Mainly aimed at getting the top 10 right, which I think it does a pretty good job of. Don't think there's too many teams I think you'd argue placing differently, or like massively differently at least. It gets them very close to right. So the final event we have is Starladder, and I wanted to include 4 events because I wanted to show the forfeit points rule. So you can see Envy, Godsend, Liquid, and Flipside all forfeit their points from the major because they haven't attended a top ranking event like a premier event since the major. I think this is totally fair. I don't see any of these teams breaking into the top 10. Maybe people would be arguing Liquid, I personally wouldn't. Flipside, I don't know. Do people really rank these as top 10 teams? I don't think anyone does. Top 20 maybe, so maybe you would expect them to be above some of these, but as I said multiple times now, this is aimed at top 10. It just sort of fits into the top 20 as well. So yeah, these reset their points to 0. Makes it nice and easy to work out. You don't have to keep working out these points. And then Starladder, obviously, is the ranking from Starladder. You can see as well I've included all player transfers here. I haven't pointed this out yet, but like FaZe, for example, at Katowice, minus Jacob, plus Nico. This actually needs changing right here. But yeah, so here's all the rosters that were used, and obviously then you can see if you look back like which rosters were where, even though the team names are different. So here's the points that were handed out for Starladder. Here's the total points after Starladder, so you can see Astralis is still number 1. This time we've got FaZe number 2. VP retained 3rd. I don't think many people now would have VP 3rd, maybe they would, I'm not too sure. But this mainly, they're still mainly 3rd because of the fact that so far the system hasn't had time to gain all the total points it needs. So you'll see down here we have the total points so far. So we've got 2,000 here, we've got 3,500 here, 4,800. This is the total amount of points that are in the system currently. This number will eventually climb to a number close to 10,000, but this will take many events. So the higher this number is, the more the 20% decay will affect teams. So for example, when it it's closer to 10,000. VP will have been hurt more by the fact they bombed out in groups twice now, because they'll have lost more points. 20% of a high number is obviously a higher number. So I don't think this is a big flaw of the system, because obviously long term it isn't going to matter how it performed in the first couple of tournaments. And I'm not even sure that VP wouldn't be ranked 3 right now. I mean, who's going to replace them? Like SK bombed out in groups. You maybe argue Fnatic, G2, Navi, or who else would we put there? You can maybe put North there instead. I think Fnatic and G2 would be the main contenders with Navi. Probably Navi up there. But even then, I mean, in a best of 3, I don't see them outright beating VP. I see it being a close game. I see there being like points to debate right there. So I wouldn't argue too much with this placing. I think it's pretty fine, to be honest. The placings I would argue with, I say G2 are 13th and Fnatic at 8th. This will fix in the next tournament, assuming these both attend and assuming they both place as well as they did this tournament. The reason they're both still down there is because obviously G2 finished top 8 only, which I think it's fair. If you've only attended one tournament in the last 3 months and you finish top 8, I think it's fair that you get ranked 13th. The only reason people would generally place them higher than that is because they looked so good in that group stage. They have such big names. But these are all pretty subjective opinions, whereas I think this is a much better objective ranking. I don't see, like, after the next tournament them being this low either. I see if they do it twice in a row, obviously people will think even higher of them, and so will the system, so we can see. I'll make an update for this, obviously after the next tournament, and we'll see where they are. So yeah, this is the ranking after Starladder. I'll show it the top 10 down here. So Astralis, FaZe, I think this is pretty good. I think people would probably rank FaZe as the second best team in the world right now. They've finished top 2 at the last 2 events. They've won the last event. Obviously this system, with the fact you decay, this system means that the most recent event gets the highest value, because the most recent event hasn't been decayed yet. I think most people generally rank teams like this, that the most recent event does count for the most. So I think it's a pretty good system. Astralis, FaZe, VP, SK, these are the 2 teams that you wouldn't really be sure if they were still here, but we'll have to see. The next tournament, if you look at how close the points are, you've got VP are at 800 nearly, SK are at 400. You'll see after the next tournament, obviously Navi are going to be up there. These could be overtaking SK. If they finish top 2, you could see them overtake VP. Same with North here. Same with Hellraisers, to be honest. I'm not sure if people would have Hellraisers ranked at 7, but I think it's pretty fair since they finished top 4 at the last event. They look good doing it, to be honest. They give everyone pretty close games. And yeah, they're not a team that you would have expected to make there, but I think the fact they have has to hold some merit, right? So yeah, here's the top 10. Obviously Heroic and Immortals are still holding on to their points from, is it DreamHack? No, holding on to their points from IEM. They'll obviously, if they don't attend, sorry, if Heroic don't attend the next 2 events, they'll drop their points. Immortals obviously attended this event and dropped out. So they both lost ranks over IEM. Immortals from 7th to 9th. Heroic from 8th to 10th. Yeah, I don't think there's too much to argue about with these rankings. I think a lot of people would have this order, except for, as I've said, G2 and Fnatic would maybe be higher, and VPSK would maybe be lower, but all these are pretty much based only off this last tournament. SK VP have been looking down for obviously 2 tournaments, but again, I mean, the best of ones have sort of caused problems there. With Fnatic and G2, I think, again, I mean, their placings were only based off best of ones, so I don't think people would be arguing too much for them to be this high. But again, it should solve itself after another tournament, which I'm going to make a video on again. We'll update the rankings, we'll talk about them for a bit. And yeah, hopefully people enjoy this. Hopefully it makes sense to a lot of people. And hopefully people enjoy looking at it and seeing that, like, this is a more objective way of ranking teams. Like, there was none of my opinion was put into this. It's purely based on numbers. The rules that you can see up here. So went through these in the previous video. Yeah, thanks for watching. If you want to use it, I might share this spreadsheet. If not, you can just obviously watch the video, see the spreadsheet, you can see the rules in the previous one, you can make your own if you wanted. Obviously this was done fast by me, so things are sort of all over the place and it's not the best way of doing it. I have to do it by hand here. I'd have to write a program to do this. I couldn't do this like using the Excel formulas because of the fact that the 5 players all have their own individual points and stuff. I'm not too good with Excel. I'd rather code my own program if I was going to do this, but I don't know, I'm pretty fine doing it by hand. It doesn't take too long to only update one event. So yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think it's a good system, if there's any flaws you found. Thanks for watching.